Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Breaking news right now at noon related to the approaching winter storm. In the last 45 minutes, Governor Josh Stein declared a state of emergency for North Carolina. We have team coverage, so you are prepared for what's to come.
And here's what's to come.
A winter storm warning here in purple, in pink and in purple, we have a winter weather advisory. I'll show you what that means for where you are and what time the precipitation will begin.
And more breaking news right now at noon. Lockdown lifted. Durham's Riverside High School was briefly on lockdown for the second time in less than 5 days. We are live at the school with what we've learned about this threat.
We start with the winter storm. We are less than 24 hours from this storm hitting our area with the snow, sleet, and freezing rain all possible. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey in for Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. We have team coverage right now. We begin with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at what time it arrives and what we can expect. Elizabeth.
We are expecting all the types of wintry precipitation, which is typically the way we do things around here. Some will see snow, some will see sleet, some will see freezing rain, and a mix of all of those. Looking at roads that will get covered in snow and sleet quickly. By lunchtime, roads will be tricky. And then, of course, we have the chance for power outages this time with a chance for some freezing rain exceeding 1/4 of an inch. Let's talk about our snowfall forecast. The farther north and east you go, the heavier those snowfall totals could be, as much as 4 to 6 inches. As you travel back to the south and west, those amounts will be lighter. And of course, we're looking at, we'll take a look here at what we could be seeing in Wake County. Of course, the line of where we see significant snow versus just some light snow and sleet could end up being farther north or south, or maybe even back to the south and west as we're getting new computer model runs in. I'm going to explain that coming up. But there's definitely going to be a sharp distinction between who sees significant snow and who doesn't, and that line is going to be really narrow. So just keep that in mind, wherever that line ends up. And then, of course, our southeastern counties have the best chance of power outages. This is where we have the raindrop that falls into freezing temperatures on the ground, sticks to the trees and to the power lines, and causes power outages. And our southeastern counties will be at greatest risk to see that. Let's take a look at Futurecast. We're looking at a dry start to the morning. I know a lot of people are going to wake up and say, wait, nothing is falling, so I'm going to try to head to work for a little while. I've seen that happen so many times, and then the precipitation rolls in between 10 and noon, and people get stuck out on the road. So don't try to drive tomorrow. Just stay home. We'll likely end this on Thursday morning with another round of snow. We're going to talk a little bit more about when the roads will get bad and how much precipitation you'll see coming up.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Less than 30 minutes ago, Governor Josh Stein wrapped up a briefing on the state preparations, and he said the biggest concerns are power outages and road safety. WRAL's Chris Lovingood listened to that briefing and joins us now from the WRAL Live Center. Chris, the DOT has already started treating the roads with that brine and has equipment ready to deploy once the storm arrives.
That's true, Jeff. I mean, there's a lot of things that they have been talking about this morning about what has already been done and the different agencies that'll be a part of making sure that roads are safe and that people will be okay once that winter storm hits. Now, again, they just spoke a little while ago, but just to give you some of the takeaways from Governor Stein's briefing, a state of emergency was declared for North Carolina, and road teams are working around the clock to make sure, again, that things are safe. Power outages, road safety, as you mentioned, these are top concerns, and warming stations will be open because some people may need access to it. I should also mention that the National Guard, State Highway Patrol, and additional emergency management response teams are a part of the preparations. And I just want to play for you really quick the importance that some of the leaders were talking about making sure that you are taking care of yourself during this inclement weather. Take a listen.
If you must drive in winter conditions, our partners with the State Highway Patrol advise reducing speed significantly, increasing distance between other vehicles, and clearing all snow and ice from your vehicle before traveling. Given the forecast, let's make their work easier by staying off the roads unless absolutely necessary.
And that's really the tone that I heard essentially from them. If you don't have to be out there, don't do it. Keep yourself safe. One last thing I'll leave you with, just a couple of other takeaways here. We're talking about 180 different National Guardsmen available and 1,300 contractors and teams preparing roads, as well as 130,000 tons of salt ready for road treatment. We'll be watching very closely to see those efforts continue as that winter storm approaches our area, Jeff.
All right, I'll take it from here. Thanks, Chris. The state DOT getting ready to respond to the storm with 500 plows, and crews have already used more than 1 million gallons of brine. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan joins us live after asking the state what they are doing to keep people safe. Chelsea.
Yeah, and we should mention 300,000 gallons of brine just put down here in the Triangle area. That is the most, according to the DOT, that they've put out in any of these storms that we've had so far this year. They were able to do that because the weather was so good over the past couple days. They started brining early Sunday morning. But what they are doing now, they're actually calling this a unique storm and tricky because, as meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner just mentioned, they don't know where that snow sleet line is going to be. You can see many of the trucks at the ready here. They're going to continue that brining process throughout the day here in the Triangle and, of course, beyond. We should mention, though, that the brine helps the snow and ice from bonding to the pavement. The DOT says one unique thing with this storm that could be helpful is that maybe in our northern counties, if snow goes on the road after the brine, it's going to act as yet another barrier instead of brine and then, of course, that freezing rain right on top of the road. The DOT is warning folks to stay off the road. Of course, as you mentioned there from the governor's office, saying the same thing. All of this to prevent pileups and accidents by slowing down and leaving a lot of that following room. They also have crews after the storm hits when ice could cause major issues.
We're preparing for the fact that if we see any accumulating ice and that hangs on trees, those trees could bend and not snap. So we have to get out there with additional crews.
We should also mention that the DOT has a useful tool on their website, of course, on their phone. You can basically map your route out to see if what it's looking like in terms of conditions. A useful tool. Of course, we have more tools on our website as well as our meteorologists working around the clock to track this storm. All of that on WRAL.com or on our news app. We're live in Raleigh. Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
2 school districts are already making changes for their schedules tomorrow. Cumberland County schools will be closed tomorrow. Employees will work remotely. And Harnett County, they will be on a remote learning day tomorrow for all students. We expect this list to grow. We will, of course, keep you updated on WRAL.com all day long. You'll see a link at the top of our website.
And Michelle, this will be part of the conversation. School districts across the area now have to figure out how they will handle all the snow days. Most districts set aside so-called banked days in anticipation of school closures throughout the year. Wake County Schools' current policy requires the district to use all of its banked days and work days before it turns to virtual instruction. Last month, school board members talked about revisiting their remote learning policy.
My ask would be, can we consider using remote instruction before we've exhausted those in-person makeup days?
So that we have that option that to fall back on for learning without the need for the conveniences of our days.
The superintendent is studying the issue before board members can make any changes.
Stay with us right here on WRAL and WRAL News Plus. We have live weather updates tomorrow and Thursday, which again are both WRAL weather alert days. You can find WRAL News Plus over the air, channel 34, Spectrum channel 1257, and the WRAL News app.
We have breaking news to tell you about right now in Durham. 2 separate threats led to 2 lockdowns at Durham's Riverside High School this morning. Sky 5 was over the school around 10:30, and WRAL's Eric Miller is at the school. He joins us now live. Eric, the school had a lockdown just last week. Students and parents, understandably, a little uneasy about all this.
Understandably so, Jeff, and we actually just this moment got a release into our inbox, this coming from the Durham County Sheriff's Office, talking about those 2 incidents they responded to this morning that resulted in those pair of lockdowns. That release reading in part, the Durham County Sheriff's Office responded to Riverside just after 10 this morning after a tip that a student was seen on campus with a gun. The school was immediately placed on lockdown. It was quickly discovered that the student in question was not on campus. Immediately after that lockdown was lifted at 10:25. A second tip was called into the anonymous tip line regarding a different student bringing a firearm onto campus. That student was located and found to not be in possession of a weapon. the Durham County Sheriff's Office, as well as asking parents to talk with their students regarding the use of the tip line. Calling a tip line in has a real and immediate consequence here. Still, back out here at Riverside High School, things pretty much have resumed normal this school day. Back to normal after those 2 tips, and back to normal after that tip on Friday as well. You've got to remember, just 4 days ago, another very similar tip about a lockdown right here at Riverside High, or about a firearm on campus right here at Riverside High, resulted in yet another lockdown that lasted about an hour. We're still working to learn from the Durham County Sheriff's Office, as well as Durham Public Schools, as to whether or not there is any connection between any of those tips, the students involved. We'll bring you those details as soon as we get them. In Durham, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
Eric, thanks for that. Next at noon, our coverage of the winter weather continues. We just received an update on school changes for tomorrow, and Chris Levengood has that update for us in the WRAL Live Center when we return.
Also, posers promising payouts, the new IRS scams, and what the real IRS says that you should do about them.
Plus, Real ID deadline, when you need to have yours if you want to fly hassle-free.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
I want to bring you back into the WRAL Live Center for a breaking update for all you parents with children in the Nash County Public School System. They will be holding remote learning days tomorrow and Thursday as well for all students. Now, it says there will be asynchronous learning for pre-K through grade 2 with no live instruction there, and then synchronous from grade 3 through grade 13, they're being told. Now, you may be listening to this right now wondering, well, how do I know if my child's school is going to be having some delays or such? Well, if you go to our website, WRAL.com, right here, click the closings right there, and then you'll have a list right here. We tend to try to update those as soon as we can, but again, we're your place if you need to know if there's some sort of delay or cancellation for school.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. And now to that frightening plane crash landing in Toronto. A Delta flight from Minneapolis flipped upside down while landing.
Yeah, the social media videos here show this unbelievable scene. The passengers evacuated that overturned aircraft. NBC's Stephanie Gosk reports, incredibly, everyone made it off the plane alive.
An unimaginable scene at Toronto's Pearson International Airport.
Oh, no. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
Video obtained by TMZ shows the moment Delta Airlines Flight 4819 crashed into the runway and overturned.
The aircraft is upside down and burning.
Video posted on social media shows passengers evacuating the plane, operated by regional jet company Endeavour Air.
Drop it. Come on.
One passenger filming the moment he jumped out of the emergency exit onto a tarmac covered in patches of snow.
Yo, I was just on this plane.
All 76 passengers and 4 crew members are accounted for. Paramedic services saying at least 18 were injured, including a child. 2 people were airlifted to a nearby trauma center.
There was no loss of life. And this is in due part to our heroic and trained professionals.
Bystanders filming giant clouds of black smoke as first responders quickly covered the plane in foam to prevent flames from spreading. Officials say it's too early to speculate about the cause of the crash, but the weather conditions are coming into sharp focus. At around the time the plane landed, wind gusts reached close to 40 miles per hour amid blowing snow and negative 2-degree wind chill. It comes amid some confusion over the presence of crosswinds, which can impact plane landings. Toronto Pearson Fire Chief saying the runway was dry and there were no crosswind conditions at the time. But according to aviation tracking website Flight Radar 24, weather advisories indicated a gusting crosswind. Monday's accident involved a CRJ-900 plane, popular for short-haul flights.
The next thing I saw is basically a plane, the CRJ plane that basically flipped on the runway.
The regional jet is a bigger version of the same model involved in the deadly collision in Washington, D.C., between a military helicopter and an American Airlines flight just 20 days ago. That crash, the deadliest in nearly 25 years, killed 67 people.
That was Stephanie Gosk reporting. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is leading the investigation with help from the National Transportation Safety Board in the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration investigators are also on their way to Toronto to help.
Elon Musk's team can access education department systems. That's the ruling today from a federal judge. The Trump administration is also ordering all educational institutions not to consider race a factor in student life. That includes preschools, elementary, secondary, and post-secondary institutions, those that do stand to lose their federal funding if they treat a person of one race differently than another person of a different race. Meanwhile, the acting commissioner of the Social Security Administration has resigned following a clash with Musk's team. The group had reportedly tried to gain access to sensitive government data. Michelle King expressed concern about Musk staffers gaining unlawful access to taxpayer information. President Trump said he plans to fulfill his campaign promise to eliminate income taxes on Social Security benefit income. However, a new report shows that change would reduce U.S. government revenues by $1.5 trillion over 10 years.
A winter storm arrives late tomorrow morning here, and we've been talking about the significant impacts that are likely in our area. Meteorologist Chris Michaels explains why it's so tricky to predict. Could be a mixed bag of precipitation.
Wake County and surrounding areas really going to be the battleground here in terms of who sees more snow and who sees more of a mix of sleet and freezing rain. It's kind of that whole rivalry we got going on in the triangle. But farther south, the general trend is more sleet and less snow. Farther to the north, the trend is more snow and less sleet. Here's the thing. If the temperature changes by literally 1 degree at the 3,000-foot level, that could change what you see 5 or 10 miles down the road. And that kind of battleground, again, is shaping up across most of Wake County. If it's 33 above the surface, you'd end up with more sleet, more freezing rain. If it's 32 above the surface, then you'd see more snow. So that's why we expect more snow in places like Wake Forest as opposed to places like Fuquay-Varina or Willow Spring.
And of course, here we have it. Yeah. A beautiful day today. Wouldn't
gorgeous,
you know it?
Gorgeous. Blue sky, sunshine. Good day to prep, Elizabeth.
Yeah, this will give people time to get out to the grocery store, get what you need, and go ahead and do that. Don't wait. Even though the precipitation may not start until, let's say, mid to late morning, oftentimes, 2 or 3 hours on either side. If it comes in a little bit earlier, you may end up being stuck at work. You don't want that to happen. Tomorrow's a day just to stay at home. So get out. Not a bad day. You can see lots of sunshine here in downtown Apex. Our temperature is 48 degrees. We'll climb into the low 50s this afternoon. Just make sure you take your patients with you to the grocery store. I know I'll have to go later on this afternoon, and I'm kind of dreading it, but we got to go and get it done. Let's take a look at what we're expecting for tomorrow. In terms of how this is going to feel for us, it will feel significant. We'll definitely have closings and delays. I doubt that we would have very many school systems that are not affected somehow, either closed or remote learning. Power outages are possible with this, especially in our southeastern counties, and it's likely to last several days. We'll likely be dealing with this Wednesday and Thursday, and then potentially into Friday too, at least in the morning with some slick conditions on the roads. Here's what's happening. Big band of snow across parts of the Midwest. The low will move southward, and eventually it moves up the coast of North Carolina. And as always, the position of that low will have a lot to do with what we'll see. So this is a look at our snowfall forecast. Again, Chris was talking about it a few minutes ago. The dark blue, 4 to 6. And then right here in the middle, we're going to see quick changes from 2 to 4 to 1 to 2 down to less than 1. And then everything down to the south is likely to be a better chance for some freezing rain. And just as a reminder, freezing rain is a raindrop that falls into an area that's below freezing. And so it freezes on the power lines, it freezes on the trees. And if it gets heavy enough, it breaks the trees and the power lines. And from Smithfield to Lillington to Fayetteville to Clinton, that's the pocket where power outages are most likely. This is a look at our winter weather chances, how things will go through the day. We may start with some light precipitation in the morning, and then it really ramps up quickly between, say, 11 and 1, depending on where you are. It'll start west and move east most likely, 100% during the afternoon and into the evening. Road conditions will deteriorate very quickly, especially once we get to late morning and around lunchtime. So again, I've seen this before where it wasn't falling in the morning and people go to work and then all of a sudden everybody wants to go home at the same time. time and roads are getting slick and it causes gridlock. Don't do that. Snow and ice will be on the roads on Thursday as well, most likely because it will stay so cold. And Friday, we will still likely have some school delays, so parents, be thinking about that so you can plan for it. Let's talk temperatures. Tonight, down to 28. Tomorrow, we're going to hold it right around freezing. And then 23 Thursday morning. Thursday, we may end up with a little light snow in the morning, but wind chill is going to be an issue for us on Thursday. It's going to feel very, very cold. And then after that, we return to some sunshine on Friday, and that may begin some melting. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the specific totals that you'll see.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, okay. School closings, that's what we are tracking. Another winter storm is approaching the Triangle, forcing schools to close. Today on WRAL News at 4, how Wake County schools plan to get back on track after the storm passes.
And then at 5, how RDU is preparing for the possibility of snow and ice. Plus, still ahead this noon, coming up, too good to be true, why a new scam saying you're due to get more than $1,000 is fake, and what to do if you get this text about it. Also, the Amazon device this name that sets it off when you say it is not going to be getting an AI boost for a little longer. I'll tell you what's behind the delay in that upgrade. Well, the winter weather, it could have a big effect on a rivalry basketball game scheduled for tomorrow night. NC State is on the road against UNC Tar Heels. That's what the schedule says at the Dean Smith Center. WRAL's Ken Smith is here now. Joins us with how this decision will be made on either to postpone or whether to go ahead with this game, Ken.
Yeah, you're so right, Jeff. At least that's what the schedule says, right? Tip-off is scheduled for 7 tomorrow night in Chapel Hill, right in what could be the thick of this winter storm on our way. As we mentioned, tomorrow is a WRAL weather alert day, which means this is a very serious storm bringing snow, ice, sleet in the morning and continuing all afternoon. Now, that said, the ACC's policy is to cancel games only if the conditions affect the safety of the teams or game officials involved. The policy also dictates the ACC wait as long as possible to make a decision, and no decision can be made earlier than 24 hours before the scheduled game. So it stands to reason we could hear something by at least 7 tonight. By the way, Duke is scheduled to host the Louisville in the women's basketball game Thursday night at Cameron Indoor. We'll keep you posted about the decision about that game as well.
All right, thank you, Ken. Well, if you receive a text saying you are due a $1,400 stimulus check, report it. It's not real. The Better Business Bureau says criminals are posing as the IRS, and they're sending fake text messages asking for personal information in return for a recovery rebate credit. The real IRS sent checks to people who did not claim the rebate on their tax returns. The IRS also sent a letter to eligible taxpayers prior to sending the rebate.
Amazon is once again delaying the launch of the AI-powered upgrade to Alexa. The delay is partly because the updated Alexa had issues with giving inaccurate answers to test questions. An employee says the smarter version of Alexa will not be available until at least March 31st. That's about 18 months after Amazon announced it was rolling out an AI-powered Alexa in response to the rise of ChatGPT. Preparing for the storm, how the state is working to keep everyone safe during this next blast of winter weather.
And it's not mandatory, but it's highly suggested why some Americans are being urged to meet the deadline to obtain a real ID. And here are your winning lottery numbers as we head to break.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
A significant winter storm arrives tomorrow with snow, sleet, and freezing rains for parts of our area.
That mixture prompted WRAL weather alert days for both Wednesday and Thursday. WRAL's Laura Leslie just left the briefing with state officials downtown. We do want to begin, though, with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now.
So let's take a look at the watches and warnings. So we do have a winter storm warning there in pink and, of course, a winter weather advisory there in purple. These are not likely to change. And this just signifies who's likely to have the greater impacts. And so it's likely to be Goldsboro here in the pink because there may be significant icing and power outages. Lewisburg, Warrenton because of some heavy snow. And then the impacts may be slightly lighter in our winter weather advisory. I will say our computer models are still, kind of toying with the potential that some of that snow is a little farther south and maybe a little heavier than some of the previous runs of the models, but the high resolution models are a little lighter on the snow. So we're still watching all those models coming in. Snow in some places and then wintry mix from, say, the Triangle area southward. Roads will get covered and slick as we get through lunchtime and into the afternoon tomorrow. And then the potential for enough ice for there to be some power outages. So right now it looks like the farther north and east you are, the heavier the snow may be, up to 4 to 6 inches. And then it tapers off to very little as we get into, say, Smithfield, Lillington. We'll zoom in here again. Some potential heavier amounts northward and possibly eastward as well. And then those snowfall totals taper off to 1 to 2, and then some sleet mixes in down south. Again, right here is where we'd have the best chance of some power outages, Smithfield, Goldsboro, Lillington, and that's the area where we could see more accumulating ice. All right, let's talk about how this is all going to transpire tomorrow. A lot of folks will, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and notice that there's nothing out there and get on the roads. But the problem is trying to beat the snow home. We're going to see this moving in. The temperatures will be cold. The roads will get slick. And I've seen this happen multiple times where people wait until it starts and then they try to get home and we get gridlock on the road. So don't be that person. You don't want to get stuck in that gridlock. We may see some tapering off during the evening and then another round of some snow early Thursday morning. And then after that, we should be done with it. But Thursday, wind chill is going to be an issue as we begin to clear. All right, so we still have plenty of time this afternoon, this evening, tonight to get out to the grocery store and stock up. Our high temperature 51 this afternoon. We'll talk a little bit more about when the roads will get slick where you are coming up.
In the last 60 minutes, Governor Josh Stein declared a state of emergency in advance of tomorrow's winter storm. He said resources, including National Guard members, are on standby across the state to respond to any emergencies. WRAL's Laura Leslie is live at the State Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh, where the emergency response team has been activated. Laura.
They're asking, Governor Josh Stein especially, asking people to please stay off the roads tomorrow and Thursday if possible. He says, obviously, those conditions are expected to be treacherous, and they're not going to improve very much on Thursday because it's not expected to warm up enough for things to thaw out very much. Now, Stein is asking people to go out today, get what supplies they need before the storm gets here. He's also recommending that those who have to travel in the storm pack an emergency kit in your vehicle. But it's not just the roads that emergency officials are concerned about. It's power outages. State Emergency Management Director Will Ray said ice accumulations of 1/4 inch or more can bring down tree limbs and knocking out power to large numbers of households.
If your power goes out during the storm, please ensure that generators are operated outside and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Never burn charcoal indoors or use a gas grill indoors.
Ray says Duke Energy is moving crews into the state from other states and probably moving some folks from the west to the east part of the state as well. He said they'll be ready to respond quickly to areas where more ice accumulation is expected, likely south of the Triangle, as you just heard Elizabeth say. In the meantime, they say make sure that all of your devices are fully charged, including any backup batteries you have, just in case there is a lengthy outage. And they're also recommending keeping an eye on that developing forecast as it continues to evolve. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
And it's so important that as you're keeping an eye on the developing forecast, that you keep an eye also on the situation regarding school closures and people that are going to be doing remote learning. In fact, we just learned a little bit ago that Wayne County schools are going to be closed tomorrow. And we've also learned not that long ago that Nash County Public Schools will be holding remote learning tomorrow and on Thursday as well. Now, you may be watching our broadcast wondering when exactly you'll hear more about your child's school if you're not in either of those two districts that I mentioned. If you go to WRAL.com, it's right here. It says closings. You just tap that right there, and it takes you to the different schools that are currently under closed or remote learning. And we'll be, of course, having this updated throughout the day. And, of course, keep you updated tomorrow and Thursday as that winter storm continues to push through.
Chris, such a good point. We also have some other districts that we have heard from as well. Cumberland County schools will be closed tomorrow. Employees will work remotely. Harnett County will be a remote learning day for all students tomorrow. We expect, of course, this list to grow, and we'll keep WRAL.com updated all day long. You'll see that link right at the top of the website that Chris showed us. So keep it right here, WRAL and WRAL News Plus. We have live weather updates for you tomorrow and Thursday, which again are WRAL Weather Alert Days. Find WRAL News Plus over the air, Channel 34, Spectrum Channel 1257, and in the WRAL News app.
An important deadline is quickly approaching. Starting May 7th, anyone boarding a domestic flight or entering certain federal buildings will need one of these, a Real ID. Jen Sullivan explains what you need to obtain a Real ID.
Passengers flying domestically will soon be required to have a Real ID. It's a special type of identification card or driver's license that meets federal security standards. And in most states, Real IDs will have a star in the right-hand corner. Some states, like California, will have a slight variation to the design, but the star will still be there.
At the very least, if you don't have it, it's really going to hold you up at TSA.
The deadline to update your license or ID is May 7th. If you don't get a Real ID by that date, you'll need your passport or other acceptable identification document to fly.
It's right before Memorial Day, so make sure you're taking care of it now.
So what's behind the change? Following the 9/11 attacks, the federal government set new security standards to obtain a state-issued driver's license and ID card. You'll also need a Real ID to enter certain federal buildings after May 7th. Here's what you'll need at the DMV to get a Real ID. Some states may require proof of a Social Security number, either your original Social Security card or a tax document or pay stub showing your full Social Security number. You may need to show 2 forms proving your address, like a utility bill or bank statement, proof of status, such as a U.S. passport, U.S. birth certificate, or a permanent resident card, and proof of citizenship if you're not a U.S. citizen. And remember, some DMVs require you to make an appointment in advance, so plan ahead.
And that was Jen Sullivan reporting. Your first NC Real ID cannot be obtained online. It can only be issued at a driver license office. To make an appointment, visit the NC DMV website.
Hey, you might hear this in your house from time to time. Mom, Dad, I'm bored. Why psychologists say it's not always a bad thing and how you should handle it.
And a name dispute involving a body of water. Why Mexico is threatening to sue Apple over the Gulf of America.
If you're a parent or a caregiver, you have likely heard the phrase, I'm bored. Now experts are saying it's actually a good thing. When a child has to find a way to entertain themselves, it can help foster their creativity, independence, and imagination. Child psychologists say these are real skills that can be useful to them as an adult.
When we are constantly entertained, it doesn't lead us to opportunities to occupy ourselves and engage in some of the activities. Grab a book, grab a crayon, play with toys or build a fort. When we have structured activities in front of us all the time, it doesn't create those opportunities, which are really important lifelong skills.
And if you do want to give them some ideas, encourage them to read a book. Creativity and imagination go hand in hand with reading. It helps children visualize the characters or imagine the scenarios.
The rise of sports betting is also leading to an increase in online searches for gambling addiction. Researchers analyze searches of keywords like gambling, addiction, anonymous, and hotline, and they found a 23% increase across the country related to finding help. Experts say the findings suggest a need for public health efforts to address the possible dangers linked to the rise in sports betting.
Contaminated food. What a new report reveals about the number of outbreaks and recalls across the nation and how many people were affected.
Welcome back. You're looking live over Zebulon this afternoon, the calm before the storm. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Federal workers overseeing the bird flu outbreak are the latest casualty of the Trump administration's downsizing effort. 25% of USDA personnel have been let go. The Department of Agriculture's National Animal Health Laboratory Network, they manage data and track animal disease outbreaks, making sure labs follow protocols and standards.
The food chief at the FDA has resigned. Jim Jones was known for his efforts to strengthen federal food chemical oversight. He resigned yesterday, though, stating widespread firings by the Trump administration would make it fruitless to continue in his role. Jones oversaw food safety and nutrition, including policy changes for labeling food as healthy and banning the use of red dye number 3. News of his resignation comes as new research reveals food contamination is becoming more widespread and in many cases more severe. Most illnesses in 2024 were linked to just 13 outbreaks. That's despite more than 300 food recalls last year. Researchers say salmonella, listeria, and E. coli were the most common reasons for food recalls.
Google has agreed to meet with Mexico's government over a name dispute. Mexico wants Google to fully restore the name Gulf of Mexico to its Google Maps service. The tech company changed the name to Gulf of America following an executive order from President Trump. Mexico is threatening to sue over this matter.
We're 12:46 right now on our Tuesday afternoon, and by this time tomorrow, things are going to look a lot different because when you step outside today, we do have a calm and really nice day out there for today. Tomorrow, much different story as we know what's going to change in the next 24 hours when the storm starts somewhere in the mid to late morning tomorrow. Don't be fooled when you wake up and the weather looks nice there. And the late week front that we are going to see here and last a couple of days here. We're going to give you a few different views from around the area with Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center to show you how calm things are right now.
Nice and quiet now. Lots of sunshine out there. A little bit of high thin cloud cover there building in Fayetteville currently. We take a look at Raleigh, looking at mostly sunny skies as well as Chapel Hill and Apex. So plenty of time to get out and get together whatever you need to get together. You need to go to the grocery store or run some errands before you get stuck at home for a day or two. It really may be Wednesday and potentially into Thursday. Friday, it looks like by the time we hit Friday, we're going to see some sunshine and most likely some melting. What are our new trends here at lunchtime? The long range models are bringing that snow line a little farther to the south, meaning more snow for the triangle area. The short range models are bringing that snow.
As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines that we are following today. Governor Josh Stein has declared a state of emergency ahead of the winter storm. Stein said power outages and issues on the roads are the main concerns right now. More than 180 National Guardsmen are prepared to respond. Duke Energy has also been preparing for the possibility of power outages. Officials say make sure all of your devices are fully charged, including any backup batteries or electric lanterns you may have.
State Department of Transportation is already ready to go for any issues. More than 500 plow trucks are prepared and ready for the roads. The state says it has already used more than 1 million gallons of brine. Crews have also used 130,000 tons of salt. They have it at the ready anyway, ready to treat those roads. Stay up to date with the forecast on the WRAL News app. It is free for you to download.
Riverside High School is no longer on lockdown. Durham Public Schools say a report of a gun on campus led to that lockdown. The district told WRAL it received 2 tips forcing them to go back into lockdown shortly after lifting it the first time. DPS says all students are safe.
An Arizona lawmaker is ponying up support for a new bill that he says would benefit the state economy.
Howdy. Howdy. Howdy.
Howdy. Howdy.
Howdy there. Howdy.
Well, how do? A state representative introduced the legislation as a way to increase marketing. Representative Kevin Volk says it's a fun way to highlight Arizona's cowboy culture and Hollywood roots. There's also been an argument for hola, as well as the Navajo greeting, Ya'ati.
All right, howdy. Well, from the beach to streets of New Haven, Connecticut, a baby seal is being nursed back to health. Police found the fella in the middle of the street on Sunday. The animal is believed to be just a few weeks old. It was taken to the Connecticut Aquarium for rehab. Experts say the male gray seal is underweight, but once it recovers, they'll plan to release him back into the ocean.
Pet of the daytime, a happy-natured dog from Red Barn Rescue that's always ready for an adventure. This is Ruth, a fluffy beauty, a Great Pyrenees mix, just over a year old. She seems compatible with most dogs. She probably will want to be the alpha dog. Ruth loves to run and play with balls. She is loaded with personality. She's a wonderful dog, but a lot of dog. Ruth needs an adult home or a home with early teen or older kids. She might overwhelm smaller kids with her exuberance. Apply at redbarnrescue.com today to meet Ruth.
Ruth is just excited. She's an excited pup. All right, well, we are making sure you are prepared for winter weather coming our way tomorrow. Today on WRAL News at 4, we'll have team coverage from all across the viewing area to get you and your family ready ahead of this winter storm.
It's hard to think about it now with the blue skies.
I know, it's
what's
beautiful.
going on out there tomorrow. Don't be fooled. NBC News Daily up next. Your next local news update in 30 minutes.
And you can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. It is free to download. Have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.